Hello, everyone. Good day. Praise be Jesus and Mary, now and forever. So I hope you're doing well despite the weather we've been experiencing the past few days. And I just want to check in and make sure that you're safe and dry. So if you have any concerns about the video or access to the video, please feel free to let me know. So before we begin with our online class, let's take a moment to gather our thoughts and say a brief prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Once again, good day, and I hope you are all comfortable to wherever you are right now. Okay, so our topic for today is all about the dominant approaches and ideas in social science. So I think I have introduced you the three different approaches to social science, and those are structural functionalism, symbolic interactionism, and Marxism. So for this morning, for today, we are going to start with structural functionalism. Now, what is structural functionalism? Let's try to break this into simpler terms. Let's start with the word structural. When we say structural, what is its base word? Excuse me. It's structure. So when we say structure, what comes into our mind or what words could we associate with the word structure? When we say structure, we could think of systems, organizations, how it's formed, different institutions. So what are these institutions that I'm referring to? I'm referring to, of course, let's start with the smallest unit, the family. Another could be the school, government, businesses, even religion. So let's move on to functionalism. What is the base word of the word functionalism? That is function. Very good. So when we say function, we're talking about the role, a responsibility, how it works within a group. So basically, structural functionalism, we're talking about the functions of the different structures or institutions that makes up a society or a nation. So by definition, structural functionalism, or the structural functional theory, also called as functionalism, sees society as a structure with interrelated parts designed to meet the biological and social needs of the individuals in that society. I want you to take note on this key term, interrelated parts. So when we say interrelated, they coexist with each other. Those institutions that we have mentioned earlier. So, the question here is that, ma'am, are these social science approaches, such as the structural functionalism, being proven? So, since it's a theory, it's not a proven fact, but a way, or it's not an absolute truth or a fact, but a way for people to think about how things in society might be connected and have functions. So, different people might have different ideas about it. New theories might arise as well in connection with that or in opposition with that. New thinkers might arise as well, but just think of it as like a, kumbaga, parang helpful guide, but not a fixed rule. We use this guide to look at, we use this guide as a lens, as like a lens to look at the society and try to explain or try to understand or make sense out of that structure. How does a society work? How does a nation work? Why is there such a problem like this? Who is the proponent behind this theory? It's Emil Durkheim. So everyone please read the PowerPoint silently with me. Okay, so what do you think motivated Emil Durkheim to come up with this idea? So what motivated him to think of structural functionalism? What is its purpose? Why did he write about this, study about this? So Durkheim, or Emil Durkheim, was curious about why society stays strong when things are changing. So in the 19th century, historically, things were changing a lot. No, mga industrialism. That was the century of industrialism. So Emil Durkheim wondered how society stayed stable amidst these changes. He looked at schools, katong mga structures that we talked about, families and government, how they are interrelated with each other, how they coexist with each other. He wanted to figure out why societies work well, even when faced with challenges. How did they work together? This led him to come up with the idea that of structural functionalism, a theory that says every part of society has a job. And within that society, we have the family. Within that family are the members of the family. And that includes you. So each one of you, each one of us, we have a role that we perform and we influence the society. So every structure has its function. And if each part does its job, society stays in good shape. So basically what structural functionalism is, it's about understanding how society's parts work together for a common goal. Now we'll have to figure that out. What is this common goal that we are referring to? What does Emil Durkheim call this? Okay, by the way, so here we have an anatomy of a man. Ma'am, what is this, ma'am? How is this related with our topic? So that is Emil Durkheim. Charot lang. So anyway, so let's go back to the goal of structural functionalism. So the goal of structural functionalism is to see how everything fits together and helps the society function smoothly, right? So structural functionalism could also be metaphorically represented by a human body and its systems. So diba in our body, we have the nervous system, respiratory, excretory, and etc. And they serve different functions. But each system cannot function without the existence or functions of the other systems. Tama ba? So for instance, the heart pumps blood and the lungs facilitate breathing. So similarly, for the society, social institutions have specific functions within society, contributing to its overall, we call it stability. That's how Emil Durkheim call it, social stability or equilibrium. Take note on that. So, if one organ malfunctions, what happens to the rest of the parts of the body? Of course, mag-malfunction po sila. And we call that dysfunction. So dysfunction, everyone please read silently. Okay, so that's what would happen if there is malfunction. If one part of that system does not function. So another example would be the human brain. So our human brain is divided into distinct parts, right? Or we call it regions. So these are we have the cerebrum, the larger part of the brain, and the cerebellum. So, excuse me, cerebrum has its distinct functions. So cerebrum is responsible for thinking, memory, reasoning, and voluntary muscle movements. So cerebrum also is divided into two parts, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere, which have distinct functions as well. We also have the cerebellum. Si cerebellum siya ang nag-maintain sa balance and posture. So kabantay mo na ma-stroke ang tao, kanang ma-stroke ba? One of the possible reasons for that, aside sa heart failure or malfunction, could be that the brain is affected. So there is this person that I know nga nagka-bukol siya sa brain. Dahil murag nana siyang ulo. And of course, kato siya nga nana, nagadako. And naga-consume siya og space causing dysfunction sa brain. Somehow na ay mga nerves nga na disturb here sa ato ang brain. So nagkadugay, iyahang mata dili na mulihok, or na ay mga parts sa iyahang language dili na mag-function og tarong iyahang brain because di na siya maka-produce og proper nga language or napoy ubang tao nga Dili na sila makalihok sa half of the part of their body because there is this part of our brain that is responsible for that, and that is cerebellum, see, maintaining posture and balance. In simple terms, to keep it simple, if one part fails, the rest of the system is affected and even might lead to failure or dysfunction. So, just as social functionalism, again, it looks at institutions like family, education, and government, and think of organs like heart, lungs, and kidneys as kining vital components with specific roles. So, let's move on. Now the question here, why do you think is the what do you think is the main goal of structural functionalism? Again, I think I have mentioned it earlier, and that is social stability, or in other words, equilibrium. Take note of that. So, everyone please read silently. I hope you are actively participating. So, insert lang ko, the purpose why I want it pre-recorded, because I want you to still have access to this video even after watching this. Okay? So, I will keep this posted sa YouTube for you to be able to access it. Okay? So, social stability. So, social stability is the degree to which a society and institutions remain predictable and reliable. So, how do we achieve social stability? That is through, it starts with letter C. It has two S. And I think you don't know it yet, but I know you're familiar with this. It's consensus. How do we achieve social stability? That is through consensus, the general agreement or shared beliefs within a society regarding its norms, values, and fundamental principles. So, we have these laws in a society and a nation, and all of us people should adhere to it in order to have social stability, whether we like it or not. But that is the law that we all should agree to. What if na ay musupak jud sa law? What happens? So, what could happen would be there'd be a total breakdown in the society. This is where societal issues come in. So, what are these societal issues? How could we relate it to structural functionalism? So, let's take an example. For example, in the community and the government, especially that we are a democratic country. If there's an instance where people would question the justice system of the government, hindi natin maiiwasan that there would be protests or rallies. We all see that sa news, sa social media, of the people against the government. And also for education, we all know our basic human rights. And one of that is the right to access for education. And if this is not well implemented or exercised, then there would be issues on child labor because children couldn't access the so-called education for all. Then they would resort to working with a young age. So mga bata pa sila, nagtatrabaho na because they cannot access education. So hindi na nakapag-aral dahil hindi ito naipatupad para sa kanila. Hindi siya makapag-aral, affected ang future, affected ang family, and the rest goes on. So, another example for demography. So, for demography, the population control. If PSA or Philippine Statistics Authority and the economists failed to recognize and control the number of people, there'd be dysfunctions in the society. Education access would be limited, limited job opportunities as well, and the land distribution. This would also affect the economy and the consumption of limited resources because they're gonna kay tao. So as what you can see, may purpose talaga ang bawat institution. How they regulate things, how they control things, how they support, even support sa education, how they support the people, how the government support that educational institution. So a family would demand something from the government, And the same as well with the government, who needs the services of some of the institutions, and the institutions need the services of the people, the labor of the people, to better serve the country. So we coexist with each other, we work with each other. So we can really see the domino effect, the ripple effect. Now let's move on to the other prominent na mga proponents. So we have here si Auguste Comte. So I hope you are familiar with him. Auguste Comte is the founder of sociology. He introduced the concept of positivism, which later on we will discuss. He also advocated for the application of scientific methods to study society, coined the term sociology, and emphasized the need for systematic observation and analysis in understanding phenomena. So si Emil Durkheim, well, let's go back, the proponent of structural functionalism, he built upon Comte's ideas or Comte's ideas. Kumbaga, his theory was based on Comte's ideas. Kaya mas nauna pa man ang concept of positivism ni Comte kesa sa idea ni Durkheim. So Durkheim used Comte's method and developed a more elaborate framework. So that is the structural functionalism. Auguste Comte is like the person who started looking at studying of how the people live together in groups. So siya ang mas nauna. Baga siya ang nag-pioneer on the studying of the people within a society, how they live together. So he's like the first explorer of the world of societies. Also, he introduced the concept of positivism again. So Comte believed that we should study society using methods similar to those in science. So positivism is like saying, let's look at facts and evidence to understand how societies works. So just like scientists that uses evidence to understand things. So he used empirical method as well. So empirical method, when we say empirical method, we use the five senses to study about things. So he coined the term sociology. Comte was the one who gave the study of societies a name, sociology. So siya nagikan. So let's move on to the last person we have, Robert Merton. He studied about the functionalism in sociology, exploration of social structure and their functions, strain theory, understanding societal reactions to unattainable goals, manifest and latent functions, emphasis on adaptation and change in societies. So one of his biggest contributions is the or well-known contribution is the manifest and the latent function, which is in connection with structural functionalism. So when we say manifest function, we are talking about the intended social functions of a social institution. Take note of the word intended. So, on the other hand, we have latent function, the unintended social functions of a social institution that are good and useful, however, not the reason the institution exists. For manifest function, to create a productive, the function of the school is of course to create a productive workforce, to educate, provide basic education. Mo na iyang main function, the intended function. The school is built to provide basic education. And the latent function is the unintended effect or the unintended function of that institution. So wala na siya na-appeal nga ang institution or ang school gain sila og friendship, maka-gain sila og new people. So and another example would be the production of or the manufacturing of cuchillo. So the knife, its manifest function is para sa balay, mag-slice og vegetables, fruits, meat. But its latent function or the intentional effect of it or the unintentional function of it is ginagamit yung knife to kill someone. So that is for manifest function and latent function. I hope these terms are clear. So when we say manifest, again, from the word itself, manifest, it's intended. Sa latent, unintended na effect. Okay, so that would be all for our discussion. I hope na-record ni siya, kaya nag-stop siya. Well, if wala, then subject ko. So I hope everything is clear. If you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to message me, okay, via Messenger. So to really check if you're listening, I want you to screenshot this. Okay, screenshot. Sige, send it to me via Messenger. Goodbye, everyone.